Hello everyone, welcome to Wi-Fi study. Hello everyone, welcome to Wi-Fi study, a part of Unacademy. Hello everyone, how are you all? Welcome to Wi-Fi study, a part of Unacademy. Hello everyone, are you able to hear me? सब लोग चैट सेक्शन में बोलिए, आवाज आ रहा है सबको? हेलो एवरीवन, चलो बढ़िया है, ठीक है. Shall we start now? चलो स्टार्ट करते हैं, ठीक है. We start now. All right. Yesterday we have discussed, right? Today highway material part 2. Today's lecture is very important lecture. कल हमने देखा था, कल क्या देखा था बोलिए सब लोग. Yesterday what we have seen, tell me. मार्शल मिक्स मेथड देखा था, राइट. येस्टरडे वी हैव डिस्कस अबाउट द मार्शल मिक्स मेथड. हमने मार्शल मिक्स मेथड का काफ़ी डिस्कशन किया था. वी हैव डिस्कस अबाउट द मार्शल मिक्स मेथड, राइट. मार्शल मिक्स मेथड पे हमने काफ़ी डिस्कशन किया था. ओके, राइट. वी हैव डिस्कस अबाउट द मार्शल मिक्स मेथड. ओके, चलो आज हम देखते हैं नेक्स्ट thing we'll discuss now. Okay, you can, to get the subscription you can use my code APS10 and get instant 10% discount. You can use my code APS10 and get instant 10% discount, right. Use the referral code APS10 for the maximum discount, right. Use this code APS10 and get maximum discount. Okay, because it is a very structured course, plus platform is very structured, lots of faculties, experts will be teaching there, top educators, even I'll be teaching there, right. चलो अब स्टार्ट करते हैं हम लोग, ठीक है. मैंने बोला था कल कि आपको मैं बताऊंगा एग्रीगेट टेस्टिंग और मैं आपको बताऊंगा ब्यूटेमिन टेस्टिंग, राइट. और पहले मैं स्टार्ट करता हूँ, फर्स्ट आई विल स्टार्ट विद द एग्रीगेट टेस्टिंग्स, राइट. पहले मैं स्टार्ट करता हूँ विद द एग्रीगेट टेस्टिंग. ओके, एंड एग्जैक्टली रिलेटेड टू व्हाट एग्जाम आस्क. ज़्यादा कथा करने की ज़रूरत है नहीं. वी डोंट रिक्वायर एनी ऑफ द थिंग्स टू डू इन द PhDs because what exam require, in that sense we do the study, right. We target in such a manner, right. The first we'll start with the aggregate. We'll first of all start with the aggregate crushing test. First we'll start with the पहला जो टेस्ट है that is nothing but what aggregate crushing test. First we'll start with the aggregate crushing test. Okay, aggregate crushing test. What is this aim? What is the aim of aggregate crushing test? What is the aim of aggregate crushing test? The aim of aggregate crushing test is to find strength of the coarse aggregate, right. This test is performed, this test is used to find strength of the coarse aggregate. Strength of the coarse aggregate. This test is used to find the strength of the coarse aggregate. पहला तो क्वेश्चन ये आ सकता है आपको, aggregate crushing value is used to find what? It is used to find the strength. It is used to find the strength of the coarse aggregate. कोर्स एग्रीगेट का स्ट्रेंथ फाइंड करने के लिए टेस्ट यूज होता है, दैट इज ACV एग्रीगेट क्रशिंग वैल्यू और एग्रीगेट क्रशिंग टेस्ट, राइट? एग्रीगेट क्रशिंग वैल्यू और एग्रीगेट क्रशिंग टेस्ट, राइट? नॉट ओके. चलो we'll see now. That is, first one we'll discuss what is the procedure. I roughly discuss the procedure. Okay, I'll discuss the procedure. Okay, मैं प्रोसीजर डिस्कस करता हूँ, ठीक है? प्रोसीजर, we will discuss the procedure first of all. If I talk about the procedure, then first is you take a 12 mm sieve. You take a 12 mm sieve. This is 12 or 12.5 mm sieve. You know what sieve, right? 12.5 mm sieve. And then take the aggregates. Allow it to pass. Right? And retain on this 10 mm sieve. Retain on this 10 mm sieve. Whatever this aggregate written over the 10 mm sieve is weight as what? Is weight as W1. Is weight as what? Is weight as, let's say, W1. Right? Is weight as W1. Now take this aggregate, whatever this aggregate, take this aggregate into the mold. ये aggregate को ले चलो mold में. Take this into this. Take this all the aggregate into this. Right? Take this aggregate. Let's say 3 layers like this. Okay. Now, whatever this aggregate you have, it is taken into the compression testing machine. It is taken into the compression testing machine. Compression or compressive testing machine. Compressive testing machine. Compressive testing machine. 40 ton in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes. After that, what will all the aggregate will get crush. क्या होगा? Aggregate will get crush. जो भी crush, जितना aggregate हमने लिया था टेस्टिंग में, उसको क्या करो? उसको sieve करो फिर से. Do the sieving analysis. And now take what? 2.36 mm. क्या हो जाएगा? सब aggregate क्या हो जाएगा? सब aggregate will be in the powdered kind of form. So this aggregate हम लेंगे और ये जो aggregate जितने पास होंगे 2.36 mm sieve, उसको फिर हम weight कर लेंगे. This aggregate is taken as what? Weight W2. Whatever this aggregate is considered as what? Weight W2. Right? W2. Let's say this takes as A. This take as what? W2 is taken as what? Let's say B. Now calculate the aggregate crushing value. Calculate the aggregate crushing value. Calculate the aggregate. Calculation is done. Calculate aggregate crushing value, right? Calculate the aggregate crushing value. We got as what? ACV, and it is given by B divided by A into 100. B divided by A into 100. ये ज़्यादा होना चाहिए कि कम होना चाहिए? जितना ज़्यादा मतलब ये जितना powdered form ज़्यादा, it means that particles or aggregates are not able to withstand more strength or not able to withstand more forces, right? It is not that good strength aggregate, मतलब aggregate crushing value should be quite less, right? So it will be able to take the load राइट. तो एग्रीगेट क्रशिंग वैल्यू का जनरली लिमिट होता है, राइट. इट मीन्स दैट जो एग्रीगेट क्रशिंग वैल्यू विल बी मोर, aggregate crushing value will be more. If aggregate crushing value will be more, then the aggregates are poor aggregates. Aggregates are more poorer aggregate, right? Poor aggregate. And for the surface course, note point, remember this. For a surface course, right? For surface course, aggregate crushing value should not be greater than 30%. And second, for the base course, aggregate crushing value should not be greater than 45%. Should not be greater than what? Should not be greater than 45%. Remember this. इतना important है हम लोग के prelims के लिए या फिर कोई भी हम लोग की ऑब्जेक्टिव एग्जाम्स के लिए, राइट. दिस मच इज मोर देन इनफ. डोंट गो इनटू मच डिटेल. दिस टेस्ट इज यूज्ड टू फाइंड व्हाट स्ट्रेंथ, राइट. टेक एन एग्रीगेट 12 mm CU, whatever written on the pass from the 12 mm written on the 10 mm is weight as W1 equal to A, and then take into the compressive testing machine 40 tons in the 10 minutes, and then whatever this powdered form of this aggregate after applying the load to the sieving of 2.36 mm, whatever the particle passes through smaller than 2.36 mm or passes through 2.36 mm is weighted as W2 equal to B. And aggregate crushing value ACV is taken as B by A into 100. More the aggregate crushing value, more poorer. For the surface course, ACV should not be greater than 30%. For the base course, ACV should not be greater than 45%. That's all. इतना याद रखिए आप, ठीक है. चलो नेक्स्ट टेस्ट देखते हैं हम लोग. Next test is your aggregate test, impact value test or impact test. Second is your impact test. Second is the impact test. What is the impact test? To evaluate toughness of aggregate. To evaluate, what is aim? Aim is to evaluate toughness of the aggregate. Evaluate toughness of aggregate, right? To evaluate toughness of the aggregate. It means that impact test is used to find what? It used to find toughness of the aggregate. To evaluate toughness of the aggregate. Okay. Size of taken what? Simple size of the aggregate for the testing. Size of the aggregate taken is what? 10 to 12 mm range. Whatever weight of hammer, because we need to have impact. Weight of hammer equal to 13.5 to 14 kg, right? Height of fall equal to 38 centimeter, right? And aggregate impact value we know. Aggregate impact value मुझे पता है, right? Aggregate impact value equal to B by A into 100. Aggregate impact value is nothing but what? B by A into what? B by A into 100. Right? So it's the same procedure, right? This procedure is same as the above, right? Procedure is exactly same, but what we do is, I'll tell you, we'll take impact testing machine, impact testing machine, right? We'll take impact testing machine, and procedure is same as the above test. Procedure same as above. Procedure same as above. Impact of hammer is 15 times. Impact of hammer is how many times? Is 15 times, right? Impact of hammer is how much? Impact of hammer is 15 times. 15 times, and calculate the B value, right? Calculate B value. Calculate B value. Right? Calculate the B value. Okay? And B by A into 100 for the aggregate impact value. Okay? Same procedure is exactly same as the above. तो हम क्या लेंगे? नोट पॉइंट में क्या ध्यान रखो? For the surface course. Surface course should not be greater than 30%. Should not be greater than 30%. Second, WBM, waterbound macadam. WBM should not be greater than 40%. And then bituminous macadam. Bituminous macadam should not be greater than 35%. If 2 to 3 value is there, then take an average of it. If the average of the result is taken, if test is done more than once, right? Average of the result is done जब हम test more times करते हैं, ठीक है? तो second test is your aggregate crushing value test. Next is very important test. बोलिए कौन सा है सबसे important test? Third is very important test. That is nothing but what? That is your very important test. That is your very important test. That is nothing but your aberration test. Aberration. Aberration test. Right? Aberration test. Okay, we have what test? We have aberration test. If I talk about the aberration test, in the aberration test we have first one, that is nothing but what? It is the best test on aggregate. If I say aberration test is the best test on aggregate. और ये आप लोग ने किया होगा कॉलेज में, right? Best test on aggregate. It is considered to be the best test on what? Aggregate. पता है आपको इसके बारे में? लॉस एंजलिस पता है? लॉस एंजलिस टेस्ट. लॉस एंजलिस aberration test. Los Angeles aberration test. Los Angeles aberration test. If I talk about Los Angeles aberration test, what is this aim? क्या aim क्या है? Los Angeles aberration test का aim क्या है? If I talk about the aim of Los Angeles aberration test, it is used to measure wear and tear. It is used to measure what? It is used to measure wear and tear. It is used to measure what? It is used to measure wear and tear. It is used to measure wear and tear, right? Wear crouch, right? Wear and tear. If I talk about wear and tear, there are two things you need to understand. यहाँ पे हम कहते हैं लॉस एंजलिस टेस्ट करते हैं, जिसमें हम एग्रीगेट लेते हैं, then steel balls are there, right? और 50 revolution we do, procedure I'll discuss. तो एक में दो चीज़ होती है, एक होता है एब्रेशन, दूसरा होता है attrition, right? You should know the difference between abrasion and attrition. If I talk about abrasion, then abrasion, दूसरा क्या होता है attrition. First is your abrasion, second is nothing but what? This is your attrition. If I talk about abrasion, then what is abrasion? Rubbing between aggregate and steel balls. Rubbing between aggregate and steel balls, right? Rubbing between aggregate and steel balls. Rubbing between aggregates and steel balls. Rubbing between aggregate and steel balls को हम बोलते हैं abrasion, and rubbing between the aggregate को हम बोलते हैं attrition. Rubbing between aggregates को हम बोलते हैं attrition. उसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? उसको हम बोलते हैं attrition. If I talk about the procedure, right? If I talk about the procedure, then if I talk about the procedure, then right? Procedure तो क्या होता है? हमें पता है, we'll take the aggregate, keep in the Los Angeles device, and revolution is done. How many revolution? Revolution is 33 rpm up to 500 revolution. 33 rpm up to 500 revolution. After that, revolution होने के बाद क्या हो जाएगा? Again, this aggregate will get in the powdered form. Take the sieve. Now take the sieve of 1.7 mm. Whatever this aggregate will pass is contained to be weight B. Similarly, B by A. This weight is W2, considered to be B. Whatever initial taken as W1, and abrasion value is given by abrasion value is equals to B by A into what? 100. Abrasion value is given by B by A into 100. Note point. Remember the note point. Surface course should not be greater than 30%, and for the base course should not be greater than 50%. For the base course should not be greater than what? 50%. So abrasion test, base test on the aggregate. It is used to measure wear and tear. Rubbing between the aggregate and steel balls. Rubbing between the aggregates, right? Abrasion. So first was what? Aggregate crushing test, impact test, abrasion test, and fourth you have fourth. If I talk about fourth is very important. This is also important test. This is one was soundness test. This is also quite important test. उसको हम बोलते हैं soundness test. There is nothing but what? Soundness test. Soundness, right? Soundness test. Right. Soundness test. If I talk about the soundness test, then soundness test, तो मैं soundness test की बात करूँ, soundness test, then in the soundness test we find what? We find the durability of the concrete. It is used to done what? It is done to see the durability, right? To see the durability, right? Durability aspects of the aggregate, durability aspects of what? Durability aspects of the aggregates. Durability concern of the aggregate is seen by doing what? Soundness test. अब soundness test में क्या करना है, right? This is the aim, right? This aim is to, this is for, you can see this is aim, to see what? To see the durability test. Okay, how it is done? First of all, please see carefully. Step 1 is clean and dry aggregate, clean and dry aggregate, clean and dry aggregate, clean and dry aggregate is immersed in, क्लीन और ड्राई एग्रीगेट को हम डालेंगे immersed in saturated solution, of what? Two things. Solution of sodium sulfate. Either we use sodium sulfate, remember this name also, we use sodium sulfate, and second is your sodium sulfate, and second is your magnesium sulfate. Magnesium sulfate, sodium sulfate and magnesium sulfate, right? Now you keep this, take a dry and clean aggregate, उसको immerse करेंगे हम लोग, डालेंगे saturated solution of sodium sulfate and magnesium sulfate. Soak specimen, soak करना है specimen को, soak the specimen for 10 to 15 hours. Soak specimen for 10 to 15 hours. Right? After soaking, dry the aggregate. Dry at 105 degrees Celsius. Dry at what? 105 degrees Celsius, and repeat for 5 cycles. Repeat for 5 cycles. It means that if you do such thing, soaking, drying, then what will be there? Reduce in the weight will be there. Reduction in the weight will be takes place. If reduction in the weight will be more, it is not much durable, and if the reduction in the weight will be less, then it is considered to be what? Then it's considered to be good durability is good, right? So यहाँ पे क्या होगा? Loss in weight. There will be what? There will be loss in weight, and if loss in weight should not be greater than 12% if you use the sodium sulfate, and should not be greater than 18% if you use magnesium sulfate. Loss in weight should not be greater than 12%, and if you use the sodium sulfate, loss in weight should not be greater than 18% if you use the magnesium sulfate, right? If you use the magnesium sulfate, and this test is known as what? This test is known as soundness test. मतलब हमने कौन से टेस्ट देखे? सबसे पहले हमने टेस्ट देखा एग्रीगेट क्रशिंग टेस्ट, उसके बाद देखा हमने इम्पैक्ट टेस्ट, उसके बाद देखा हमने एब्रेजन टेस्ट, उसके बाद हमने देखा साउंडनेस टेस्ट, राइट? Next test we'll discuss, that is your shape test, right? Shape test. Next your test है, that is nothing but what? That is your shape test. Please see carefully. Next is your shape test. This test is known as shape test. If I talk about the shape test, then the shape test we have 3 tests. For the shape we have the 3 tests. One is known as your flakiness index. flakiness index. Second is your, first is your flakiness, second is your elongation index. Can anyone tell me other name? Third one, can you tell me elongation index? And third is your angularity number. Angularity number, right? First is your what? First is your flakiness index. Second is your elongation index. And third is your angularity number. Third is your angularity number. चलो वन बाई वन देखते हैं, ठीक है? वन बाई वन विल डिस्कस. फर्स्ट जो टेस्ट है, फर्स्ट वन शेप टेस्ट इज योर flakiness test, right? Flakiness test. First is your flakiness. Right, flakiness test. If I talk about flakiness test, flakiness is considered to be what? Flakiness का मतलब क्या होता है? Less thickness, flaky. Less thickness, right? Less thickness. Here whatever we take the size of aggregate जो हम लेते हैं यहाँ पे, size of aggregate, should be greater than size of aggregate is greater than 6.3 mm. Size of aggregate is greater than what? 6.3, like flaky kind of thing, flaky. Size of the aggregate is considered to be what? Greater than 6.3 mm, right? अभी flakiness index हम calculate करते हैं. Flakiness index we calculate, right? This flakiness index is given by what? B by A. Is given by what? B by A into 100. अब B by A क्या होता है वो हम देखते हैं, right? B is nothing but what? B is equals to weight of aggregate. ऐसे क्या होता है, ऐसा you will what? This kind of device will be there, right? If you see carefully, let's see. Are you able to hear my voice? Are you able to hear my voice? आवाज आ रही है सबको? Are you able to hear my voice? बोलिए. आवाज आ रही है सबको? देखो, B is nothing but what? Weight of aggregate whose least lateral dimension is less than 0.6d, whose least lateral dimension is less than what? Is less than 0.6d. Least lateral dimension is less than what? 0. You have what like this? ऐसा होता ना, thickness gauge. इसमें हम pass करते हैं, right? We pass it on a thickness gauge, right? And whose least lateral dimension is what? Whose least lateral dimension is less than what? 0.6d, and d is the mean size. D is nothing but what? D is your mean size, where d equal to mean size, right? D equal to what? Mean size. And b is your least lateral dimension, is less than what? Is less than 0.6d. b is the weight of the aggregate, right? तो हम क्या करेंगे फिर उसके बाद हम कैलकुलेट कर लेंगे, and should not be greater than what? Should not be greater than 15%. Normally तो 25% होता है, right? But generally should not be greater than what? Should not be greater than 15%. Suppose ऐसा कुछ आ गया कि आपका, if the size, remember this also, if the size range of the aggregate, if the size range of the aggregate in a group is 16 to 20 mm. Suppose 16 to 20 mm है, ठीक है, size range. If the size range is 16 to 20 mm, let's say 16 to 20 mm, तो हमें कौन सा slot thickness gauge जो आपको मैंने आगे दिखाया है, ऐसा जो thickness gauge होता है उसमें से कौन सा slot select करना होगा, which slot you need to select, right? उसके लिए is aggregate, then the width of slot to be selected, the width of slot to be selected, the width of slot to be selected in thickness gauge the width of slots to be selected in thickness gauge is what? You need to do 16 plus 20 divided by 2 into 0.6. So this will be 18 into 0.6. So this will be 10.8 mm. Understand? The size, if the size range is there of the aggregate in a group, then the width of the slots will be divided by what? Average into 0.6, mean size, right? 16 plus 20 divided by 2 into what? Into 0.6. Into what? Into 0.6. So this is nothing but what? Flakiness index. What we use? Thickness gauge. We use thickness gauge. Second test you have. Second test जो है, that is nothing but what? That is elongation test. Second test is nothing but what? Elongation test. Elongation test. Second test is your elongation test. If I talk about the elongation test, then, right, size of the aggregate first of all should be greater than what? Size of aggregate greater than 6.3 mm, right? And what is the elongation index? Elongation index is nothing but elongation index is the percentage by weight of the aggregate, is percentage by weight of the aggregate percentage by weight of the aggregate whose greatest dimension is more than 10 1.8 D, where D is nothing but what? D is your mean size, right? D is nothing but what? D is your mean size. Therefore, what you can say? You can say that your elongation index equal to B by A into what? B by A into 100. B by A into what? B by A into 100. B by A into 100, where B is equals to nothing but what? B is equals to weight of aggregate written on weight of aggregate retained on, right? Weight of the aggregate retained on length gauge. Weight of aggregate written what? Weight of aggregate written on length gauge, right? Weight of the aggregate written what? Written on length gauge. थर्ड जो हम टेस्ट देखें, that is nothing but what? Angularity number. थर्ड शेप टेस्ट में आता है, that is nothing but what? Angularity number. Angularity number. If I talk about angularity number, then angularity number lies between what? 0 to 11. The number lies between 0 to what? 0 to 11. The angularity number lies between what? Lies between 0 to 11. Lies between 0 to 11. Higher the number, higher the number, higher the number, more angular is the particle. More angular is the particle. Higher the number, more angular is the particle. Therefore, angularity number equal to 67% minus percentage of the solid volume. Angularity number क्या है? 67% minus percentage of the solid volume, where 67% is nothing but what? 67% is where 67% is the percentage solid volume of most rounded aggregate, of most rounded aggregate in well compacted state. In well compacted state, 67% is the percentage solid volume of most rounded aggregate in the well compacted state. In the well compacted state, it means that it measures, ये जो angular number है क्या कर measure करता है? It measures void in excess of 33%. Voids in excess of what? Voids in excess of 33%. इसको कैलकुलेट करना है तो क्या होता है? कैलकुलेशन थिंग बट व्हाट? एग्रीगेट नंबर इक्वल टू 67 माइनस वेट ऑफ योर एग्रीगेट ऑक्यूपाइंग सिलेंडर में वेट लेते हैं, वेट ऑफ द एग्रीगेट ऑक्यूपाइंग सिलेंडर, वेट ऑफ द वाटर ऑक्यूपाइंग द सेम वॉल्यूम ऑफ द सिलेंडर into G. G is nothing specific gravity of aggregate. This also you can easily calculate. So W equal to what? W equal to weight of aggregate occupying cylinder, aggregate occupying cylinder, right? Weight of water occupying, WW is nothing but weight of water occupying same volume of cylinder, and G equal to specific gravity of aggregate. Specific gravity of what? Specific gravity of एग्रीगेट, इतना ध्यान रखना है हमें, राइट। मतलब आप जो हमने टेस्ट देखे एग्रीगेट पे, बहुत बढ़िया बढ़िया टेस्ट देखी हमने, दैट इज नथिंग बट व्हाट योर एग्रीगेट क्रशिंग टेस्ट, इम्पैक्ट टेस्ट, एब्रेशन टेस्ट, साउंडनेस टेस्ट, शेप टेस्ट, इसमें फ्लैकी इलोंगेशन टेस्ट और एंगल नंबर टेस्ट, ठीक है। कल हम देखेंगे टुमारो विल डिस्कस अबाउट क्वेश्चंस ऑन दिस एंड इवन द टेस्ट ऑन ब्यूटामिन। कल हम डिस्कस करेंगे टेस्ट ऑन ब्यूटामिन, राइट।